Welcome to the Football Show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Peter Martin and delighted to welcome you to this Old Firm special preview of the Glasgow Derby. It's one of those games, Rangers against Celtic. What's the best one to look forward to? Well, they say it's the next one. So I've got some people who've sampled it before, and of course we're going to offer you an opinion, and we'll embrace your opinion as well on our YouTube channel. All you have to do is hit that subscribe button. I'm Peter Martin. Roughie is with me as ever, and two guys who've sampled the game Rangers against Celtic. I wonder how successful they've been. We'll find out very shortly. Iain Ferguson, former Rangers player, and Shaun Maloney as well. So it's a game that everybody looks forward to. It's eagerly anticipated. Did you enjoy them?
I think once you get used to them, I think I only played in three. I was there a couple of years, I only played in 3 Old Firm games, but enjoy may not possibly be the word that you would use. I think you relish the games, you want to go out and play in these games. That's why you join Rangers or Celtic. The Old Firm Derby is renowned worldwide. So if you can compose yourself and enjoy the game, they used to say that, play the game, not the occasion. So if you can enjoy the game and more importantly come out on the right side of the result, then they're fantastic occasions to be involved in. So enjoyed them and enjoyed being part of it, and even now going watching them, and enjoy the build up to the game. And you never know, you can never really predict how the game's going to go. It's all about who turns up on the day, and both teams are quite evenly matched at the majority of the times, and it's fantastic atmosphere and a great occasion to play in. So yeah, enjoyed them as much as you could possibly enjoy them without freezing on the day. Yeah, and that's the key issue here, Shaun, because you get to a game like that, everybody and their granny who's played in it then tries to impart their knowledge on you and their experience.
That's why we're here,
Yeah, I was going to say to you, do you, like Iain, do you enjoy it, or do you get to the point where I've interviewed so many former players and they say, that first 20 minutes you're actually thinking, I need to catch my breath, I can't believe the pace of this match?
Yeah, I think that's, I loved the build-up, I loved the pressure, and I loved how it just felt completely different to almost any other domestic fixture, or it completely is. Never enjoyed the game until you won. Even the games you got beat, there was no joy whatsoever. It's only at that moment where you win that in these games I've found you can get joy, because it meant that much. And it's the one game in domestically for both teams that I always found that you could have a really strong 20 minutes, really like dominating Rangers, and then the next 20 minutes complete opposite. And it just felt that normally the players are always quite even. I'm not so sure at the moment with Rangers and Celtic, but at times when I've played in it, even as a younger player, and later on in my career, they were always quite even. And it was mad. There was nothing to do with the tactical things. It was like 20 minutes dominating, and the next 20 minutes Rangers would do exactly the same to us. And amazing games to watch.
Yeah, the other thing about it, Roughie, I always remember sitting next to Derek Johnson for many years, and he used to say to me, win, fantastic, you're out there with your mates, you enjoy the weekend, lose, lock the door in a darkened room, don't come out until it's training on the Monday.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. It's the game. If you're part of it and you lose it, it's a hard one to get your head around. You know, you've got all your supporters there, well, not now, you know, the way things have changed. But it's a tremendous feeling. I've got a fantastic record. I've got 1 Old Firm game and 1 win. It was a reserve game in the morning of the 5-1 game.
For Rangers.
There was 20,000 at that game, at a reserve game in the morning. And we won 2-1, unfortunately. Got beat 5-1 in the afternoon. But no, I know, I talked to the players. Well, I spoke to Tommy and Mark and all the boys and that who played in the games then. I was going to say to Shaun there, Shaun, would it make any difference now the way the crowd's changed?
I think it does.
I think
it would do, yeah. On both sides, even with the game at Celtic Park and now at iBox with the limited away support, I think it does take away from the atmosphere. I think I loved when you're there with Celtic and you've got the full stadium or full stand behind, and it just makes the atmosphere when you have that many. I hope both clubs eventually get together and fix that, because I think it does take away from the fixture, in my opinion.
No, I think you're 100% correct. I've gone on record on several occasions in the last year that 700 Rangers fans, 700 Celtic fans is not the way ahead. Now I know 1,000,001 people say, "Oh, we're catering for season tickets." Barcelona, Real Madrid, there's only a small contingent, but this is Scotland. There's passion. I don't know about you, Iain, but looking at Celtic Park and you look to the right-hand side and there's 7,000 Rangers fans there, you know, and you think of some of the great games that have gone before, to win in your neighbour's backyard is special, and you want to celebrate it with as many as you can.
Yeah, you do. I agree totally. I think to have you're never going to have an even split, but to have more of a Rangers or Celtic following, to be there on match days is what the game's all about. I mean, the clubs have made the decision between both of them. It's both clubs have decided that they're only going to give a limited amount of tickets to away fans. It does take away a wee bit from the occasion for me, because obviously you want to have a good number of opposing fans or away fans there on the day. It just creates that atmosphere. But
especially if you score a goal.
Well, that's if you'd be looking about to see where to run to. You can't see it. Again, it can be a big advantage to the home team. I think it probably can prove that way. But again, it can be a disadvantage as well, because if things aren't going well, you've got the majority of people who might not be too happy.
Yeah.
So again, I would like to see it myself. I think everybody would be in agreement if the clubs can get together and agree on a solution for that one. It would be nicer to see a bigger number of opposing fans at these games.
Yeah, and strangely enough, I did mention there, the joy of the game is scoring goals. If Celtic or a Rangers player score a goal and you are away from home, Roughie. Now, there are two elements to this. You know, we had Barry Ferguson for more than a few years on the show, and Barry scored an absolute raker of a goal, and he ran towards the Celtic fans and then thought, maybe that's not a good idea, so he ran away. Whereas Derek, DJ, scored a goal at Celtic Park, it was an absolute perler, and decided to run to the jungle and give them what for, which I just thought to myself, DJ's got the bottle in the spine for that. You love the noise up of it all.
My best one is Scott Brown, obviously. Scott Brown with Juve. You know, he just happened to be in the vicinity, you know, and he reacted the way he reacted. But, you know, that's what the games are all about. And if you ask all the players individually, I mean, we all say that during the game, rivals after the game, majority of the time, you're pals to a certain extent. So, you know, I think in 90 minutes, I've never ever been a goal scorer, but to score a goal in an Old Firm game would be just the bee's knees.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute, but what I will say to you is, working at it, and I've worked at hundreds of them, the build-up is incredible. The 5 minutes before the teams come out, it's almost as if somebody in a Spinal Tap moment cranks it up to 11, and then the noise as the two of them try and annoy the life out of each other. And that part for me is only rivalled ever by Champions League football because of the nature of it. And I wonder about you guys, we were talking about it, at what point do you block the crowd out, Shaun? Are you in any way affected by them?
I wasn't. I think as soon as I started the warm-up, I was fine, because you do it that many times, you're on a football pitch every day. As soon as I got to the warm-up, I was fine. Before that, I think getting to the stadium, there was always that feeling that you get, almost excitement and nerves together. But then as soon as the warm-up, then it's done. Rangers games at Ibrox, you could feel the hostility, particularly when if I was playing wide, you'd go for the ball, or you knew the environment.
Yeah.
But it didn't affect. Once you're on the line, I was okay with it.
Yeah, and were you one of those players who, I mean, you hit an absolute raker at Celtic Park in an Old Firm game. What was going through your mind then? Is it? I mean, I remember Neil McCann scoring for Rangers in the game that decided the title for Dick Advocaat. And the funny thing about it is Neil McCann scored, and then he went right round across the Rangers fans, because he could see all the Celtic fans at that end, and then he ran over to his own supporters. That, may I add, is the only game I've ever gone to in a working capacity and been frightened.
Yeah, that was the Hugh Dallas, is that right? Is that the Hugh Dallas one? Yeah, I was a ball boy at that game. I was a ball boy at that game. So that wasn't a good feeling. But that's what this fixture has. When I was growing up, obviously Rangers went through what they went through. Before that, the teams were neck and neck.
Yeah.
The leagues were won on goal difference. They were won on these fixtures, and it has been in the last couple of years as well. And that's the intensity that it brings. In that game, it spilled over. But yeah, there is, when you speak about scoring in an Old Firm game, also it must be for a supporter when you have that one of your players scoring and you're in the away end and you've got 50,000 of the opposite and your big rivals. The feeling must be Must be incredible, huh?
Yeah. Let's look to the two managers before we get in depth into what they've been doing in the short term, and over and above that, what we think is going to happen over the 90 minutes. Very difficult to call. It's always guesswork, really, because as you guys have highlighted, even from a pundit's point of view, Roughie, and journalists, you look at it and you think there's one moment of madness that can transform it. First of all, from a Michael Beale perspective, what do you think he's brought in that short space of time that you've witnessed, because you're watching them on a regular basis, Iain?
Yeah, well, I am. I mean, I've worked at a couple of the home games and I've seen it firsthand, and I think there's an extra spring in some of the players' step. I think he obviously knows quite a lot of the players from being a coach there before. Coming in, and they've seen a familiar face coming into the dressing room to take control and take charge. I think he's very tactically aware. He seems to have got them playing on the front foot a wee bit more. For me, they're going attacking teams and they're scoring goals every game. Again, they're managing to empty the treatment room up a wee tad and get some boys, important players back. I think Connor Golson's presence coming back in the centre defence and linking up with Ben Davis. I think that'll be a good partnership. They'll be a good foil for each other if they can stay fit and healthy. James Tavernier on that side and Borna Barisic. I think the defensive side, it looks kind of strong. It allows John Lundstrom to go back into midfield, do what his job is. And again, the boys up front, Ryan Kent, for me, we know his contract's up at the end of the season, but Michael Beale coming through there, he's worked from a very young age with Michael, and I think he's got him on the front foot. He's attacking defenders and he's creating chances, and certainly looks a lot livelier. Alfredo Morelos looked reasonably back to his best last night as well, and he gets fitter by every match. I think Alfredo, for me, is the kind of boy you could train and train and train, but he only gets that sharpness back by actually playing in games. He scored one last night, could have had another couple. So I think he's brought that extra confidence that they can go forward and attack teams, and they are creating chances and scoring goals. So again, I saw his interview saying that they're going to go hell for leather. So there'll be two teams going hell for leather. I can't wait for the game to start. The build-up to it will obviously be intense, but personally I can't wait to be at the game. I'm working at it and see how they go at each other, because it should be a very eventful game.
Yeah, absolutely. And on Wednesday, certainly Michael Beale, after the Motherwell game, highlighted the fact that even in the early stages, he's way off where he wants Rangers to be.
Not really. It was disjointed again. I'm not going to sit here and pull the wool over anyone's eyes. It wasn't free-flowing. It wasn't what I want it to be. I don't think it's an effort thing. If you'd have said to me 2 or 3 weeks ago that we'd have got 12 points from the first 4 games and we'd have got 2 clean sheets leading into the next game, I would have taken it. I would have liked us to be playing with a little bit more rhythm, but hey, we got the 3 points. It's another clean sheet. It's another clean sheet with Ben and Connor on the pitch. So they're the positives for me this evening.
Well, he's fairly forthright in his opinion on it, Roughie. You know, I mean, this is another manager's team. He's just got to try and get the best out of them and get them to play the style he wants before he, I think from Rangers fans' point of view, before he's able to actually change the makeup of that team and the clientele.
Yeah, I think he's honest enough to say in the last 4 games, they have been better than what they've been. But I think Iain's touched on it. Golson and Davis, for me, I think Rangers' weakness was the back 4. I think they were solid all through their European campaign. They weren't losing goals. People weren't getting chances. And with these 2 back, I think they'll be more solid. I think it's going to be interesting how they deal. I mean, I think Celtic are a different kettle of fish from all the teams, the 4 teams have played. It's going to be a really important one for me, I think, possession-wise. I think Celtic have been getting into most games and coming away with 75%, 80% of games. I think it's up to Rangers now to spoil that. I think they have to have more possession than Celtic to come out of this game.
Well, there's 2 elements to that, Shaun, and one is the change, as Iain has mentioned, which is Rangers now. He wants that. He wants a higher press. He wants more intensity into the way the team approaches it. And of course, Celtic certainly, it'll be a long time before I can even think of a game where Celtic have gone to Ibrox and had 80% possession. That just doesn't happen. So he'll be wanting them on the front foot.
Yeah, so even when we look at the last, even under Gio, I think, well, apart from the 4-0 game, I think even before then, I actually felt that Rangers were starting to actually figure out how to play against Celtic in the way that they play with their fullbacks. I think I think there's only been a couple of teams had more possession than Celtic since Andrew's come in domestically. Rangers being one of them, and I think because it's Michael Beale's first Old Firm game, and you mentioned he's going to go strong and very aggressive. I think they have to stop Celtic playing. I think if you allow Celtic to play, even I know we've seen Aberdeen, we saw obviously there was a game last night. If you allow them to get into your half of the pitch, they'll cause you problems. And I'm actually really looking forward to see how Rangers try and stop that. Because under Gerrard, the way that they pressed, I think they'll go very similar, Michael Beale. And I actually think it's probably the best way to press Celtic. You have to go as high as you can, because if you allow them into your half, then the rotations they have and the players, I think they'll get hurt.
It's amazing, actually, though, when you think about it, Iain. There's been a situation where he's got 12 points out of the games, going into it the perfect way he wanted. And it's amazing how things can just change on a moment. 2-1 down against Hibs, they fight back. Aberdeen, suddenly, in the dying minutes of that game, you're thinking Celtic could be 12 points clear. They fight back not only for a draw, but a win. So he's got them battling for him. Now, he just, as Shaun mentioned there, the whole thing goes back to the way Gerrard eventually worked Celtic out.
Yeah, I agree, and obviously Michael Beale was part of that. He was part of the coaching staff who came up with the solution to try and play against Celtic, who will come at you and continuously press you. I think he'll bring his own style. It's nice to see that even though he's had 4 wins on the bounce, he's not obviously happy with the way the fluency of the team and the way he wants them to play. But that'll come in time. I mean, he has to put his own stamp on it. And again, as Alan pointed out, I mean, he's a manager coming into a dressing room where he doesn't know quite a lot of the players, and he did have experience of playing with them. So there is a kind of comfort zone there. Allied to that, Conor Golson and Ben Davis at the back gives you that stronger feel that they can defend against a team like Celtic are going to come straight from where to go. And I think possession wise, I watched the possession last week against Ross County for Rangers. They had 70% or 75% of the play. It's turning that into goals. Celtic have been scoring 2, 3, 4 goals a game. Rangers 3-0, but they don't seem to be as fluent, just as fluent going forward. And I think that's what he was pointing out, that he'd like to see that fluency and getting the ball from back to front quicker, turning teams at the opposing side and putting the ball in the net. So it would be a very interesting game. I think both teams have came in, obviously Celtic have been in form all season. I think since Michael's came back, he's just added that wee bit of extra fight and determination. It shows a lot of character when you're twice behind against Hibs and obviously get into the last injury time against Aberdeen, being behind and not only salvaging a point, but going for the win. And that's the big thing. Rangers know that they need to win more or less every game now to catch. We have a chance of catching Celtic. And again, massive 3 points. It's up for grabs on Monday. Yeah. Because Rangers need to get the 3 points to have that title race going and going to the end. They really need the 3 points.
Yeah, when you look at the last 5 games that Rangers have played, Roughie, you can see just where Giovanni van Bronckhorst departed. That game, I actually thought they were going to sack him on the day because I was there for St Mirren against Rangers. They were slow, they were predictable. I think Iain makes a very good point. There are a number of players that were out. So suddenly, that little bit of fortune gets a couple of players back, tries to get the best out of the team. They battle to the win against Hibs with the crowd. Aberdeen's a different scenario. Again, they just have to grind it out with some of the more experienced players. And then from there, I think Michael Beale would have been happy with Ross County and Motherwell to face just to get that confidence ahead of Celtic's visit.
Yeah, I agree with Iain to a certain extent. It's great to see a team, if you're down, fighting right to the end and getting goals late on. But I worry when you're leaving it that late, and I worry that you're having to dig yourself out a hole. And it's going to be different. We all know what Celtic are like, middle to front. They're going to be different for every team that Rangers have played there. So I would like to think if they were to go 2-0 behind to Celtic, I couldn't see them digging out a 3-2. Yeah. But they've got that home advantage, and these guys have played in these games before, and it can turn on its head at any time. Yeah,
we're going to get your predictions. Don't go too early, Roughie. I don't want you to make an early run into the box and be called offside. Okay, we've talked about Michael Beale. What do you think of Ange Postecoglou?
Done an amazing job, really. You consider what he took over. Like, that feels like so long ago. that he had to, obviously, when he first came in, try and qualify for the Champions League with just above probably a youth team or a B team, to where he's got the team now. I think he's done a brilliant job. I love how the team plays. Really difficult to play against, both in and out of possession. They're very aggressive out of possession. They will try and stop you as quickly as they can. So he's just done a brilliant job. I think, with qualifying for the Champions League, it's allowed them to invest again in the squad. I think it's the first summer that they've probably not sold a really big player. So they're going to try and really progress the team. So yeah, I think I really like him. I like how he plays. He seems like a good guy. Long may it continue for Celtic.
Yeah, I've got to ask you this question then. The managers that you worked under, how was it ahead of an Old Firm game? Did they tell you the day before you're playing? Because I asked them, a couple of months back, you've got a winning team who wins a game and then he changes and takes 2 players out. One of them, I think, who scored the hat-trick, and he takes him out the next game. And I'm saying, do you worry about the fact that you've got a team that sometimes managers tend to stick with a winning team? And he says, I'm not going to do an Aussie accent, right? He says, no, basically, I put the team up and they'll read it and they can like it or lump it. That was his line. And I thought to myself, okay, that's a tactic.
Yeah, I've read a little bit about him speaking about, I think he didn't speak to a player on a long flight once. So
yeah,
I read that.
Rise Lagoon,
Yeah, I read that. So he's the opposite when you speak to him. Maybe it's different when you're a sort of rival manager, but I think only from afar, I don't know inside, but it does look like a really good sort of culture they have. They can bring a player in.
Did you like to be told you were playing the day before or something? Did you get that?
Some managers would tell you. Some managers would pick the team the day before. Sometimes you'd find out 3 or 4 days before. Some managers would tell you the morning of. I prefer maybe the morning of when I was a manager because it keeps everyone sort of alive that they can play. And then you make that decision. You never know what happens at training, and there's times where things tactically have changed overnight. So I always like the morning, but I don't think it's a right or wrong. And Ange's obviously getting it pretty right at the minute.
I was going to say, there's no right or wrong if you, depending if you win. You win, you'll go, well, that was great. Tactical genius. What did you like, Fergie?
Well, again, when you go way back to when I played, there was only 2 subs. So, I mean, the squad now, even the amount of boys that's sitting on the bench who are going to be involved on the derby games. At the time when we played, there was only 2 substitutes, so kind of limited unless you were in the starting 11 or on the bench. The 2, you would always like to know. Everybody had a rough idea what the team would be anyway.
Yeah.
There wasn't just as much, certainly not squad rotation at that time, because we had smaller first team pool. So again, you would probably know the lead up to the game, how things were going, who would be playing, who wouldn't be. There may be a tactical switch or a tactical thing. If you were playing away from home, you might go a wee bit more defensively, and somebody up front might lose out in that, but you would probably get your seat in the bench. But different for guys now. I think a lot of players accept being a squad player and sitting on the bench, and they have this rotation system with the amount of games they play. Whereas when we were playing, we all wanted to play, and there was, if you were on the bench, you probably weren't too happy.
Yeah, you're in a huff.
But again, you had to accept that. I mean, it was a limited amount of bodies. So
yeah, I think Iain makes a good point though, and I think this is the key to this game on Monday, Roughie, is quite simply the change in modern football to the substitutions, to the strength that you have on the bench, because that's going to be key in a game which is going to 20 minutes ebb and flow, switch, turn on its head, an incident changes a manager's thought process. And the bench is where 4 or 5 players can come on and totally change the axis of the side.
Yeah, that's why the game's changed from where I am now, because managers now are prepared to take 3 players off at any given moment, because he knows what he's got on the bench, and you can see that with Celtic, and you can see it with Rangers as well. And you saw it in the World Cup, things weren't going well. It's 4 players coming off and 4 going on. So from a manager point of view, you've got to be really assured that the guys you're putting on are maybe not as good as the ones that you're taking off, but of equal quality. And that's the success that these teams are getting.
Yeah, and as you have a look at the previous games that Ange Postecoglou in the last 5, Celtic really on a roll. Only, as you can see there, Shaun, only St Mirren have really kind of derailed them domestically. Obviously, there's been a few tight games there. Aberdeen was tight, to say the least, as it was for Michael Beale and Rangers. Livingston's always a battle. And then the last two going into this Old Firm game, they've been comfortable in the end against St Johnstone, and certainly cruising against Hibs.
Yeah, last night they were very strong, really, apart from the first 9 or 10 minutes. And I'd say they were very strong against Aberdeen. I thought they were actually very good. I think.
Or Aberdeen very bad.
Just the way Aberdeen just defended for a period of time, which obviously you can't do it with Audrey. So, but Celtic were good that game. They were good. And the last couple of games they were very good. I thought they were really, really good last night. So,
do you like that 5 substitutes, that whole attitude to changing it?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it just gives you so many options, and I think, like Roughie said, you might be putting somebody on that it may be a different skill set. Like, there might be a player that's really good at something that's on the bench, and you now see something that you think, actually against him, I think he's perfect, or something different. I liked it. It gives you a real. It gives you freedom to completely change.
What light were you as a manager, though? Would you as we've watched, as Roughie alluded to there, France battered in World Cup final, not going well. Everybody's wondering what's happening. Deschamps didn't wonder. He thought, right, Giroud off. I think the boy on the far side, Dembele off. Changes the team. Managers have to be brave to do that. Would you have done that early before a first half?
Yeah, if you feel that's the right thing to do, you have to make that decision. I think that's what you're paid for. If you see it and you want to make the decision, and you see something that's maybe not working that you thought would, then you have to change it. I think you have to deal with the players after, because that is quite a difficult thing for a player to come off before half time. I can't imagine what it's like in a World Cup final, but you have to make that decision, and it gives the 5 substitutes does allow you to do that. You see something, you make a decision, and bang, you just make it.
You go for it, yeah. Listen, I want to talk to you guys about the overall aspect of how important this game is, win, lose or draw, because it's a 9-point advantage. I did ask Ange Postecoglou on Wednesday if that was an added bonus for them going to their great rivals at Ibrox with that 9-point cushion.
Whether you're 9 points ahead, 9 points behind, what does it matter? The next game's a massive game. It's a showcase game. It's not just, it's a big game for our supporters. It's a big game for our football club. It's a big game for the league. It's a showcase game, So we want to be a part of that. We're going to Ibrox, tough place to go. So, who cares what the point tally is? What a game to be looking forward to, and that's what we'll do. We'll look to it and try and put on another strong performance and give our fans again some joy.
Do you know there's a recurring theme here? Iain mentioned it as well. I don't know if you're aware of this, Roughie. I'm a big boxing fan, and one of the finest fights I've ever witnessed in my life was Thomas the Hitman Hearns against Marvin Hagler, where basically the bell rang for the first round and the two of them came out and absolutely slugged each other to almost death. It was absolutely incredible. They called it the war, and I genuinely feel both managers have got that slugger's attitude to this. Yes, there will be a thought process. Yes, there will be an insight tactically in how to derail each other, but you certainly get that sense from them that there's going to be no quarter given. Nobody wants to be on the back foot.
No, and these guys have played in these games, and I think it's all important, the first goal. If you get the first goal in these games, it can set the opposition back maybe 15, 20 minutes to get back into their stride, because they've got to deal with it. The mentality is if they get another one, obviously we're going to be 2-0 down. So the first goal for me, I can't remember what game it is, you probably remember, I think Rangers and Celtic. And I think Celtic were big favourites, and Rangers scored in the first minute. I can't remember, it was at Ibrox, I can't remember who it was that scored, but that set them back.
Just out of curiosity, Roughie, I've almost witnessed maybe over 1,000 of those games. I can remember Mark Haitley scoring inside 3 minutes in a game, and everybody said it was going to be tight.
But as I say, these guys have played in the games. The mentality is, I've never experienced it, but when you go one behind, you get a different thought. What's going through your head? Obviously these guys, what is, okay, you don't want to panic. You just go. You believe in your ability. You believe in the players you've got there, but it must be a horrible feeling.
You need a strong-willed player around you sometimes who can say, right, listen, we've lost a goal. Calm your jets. Let's keep to the game plan.
Good in theory, yeah. I think you have to go into these games, as Shaun quite rightly said. Once you get, I mean, I liked all the European fixtures that I played in, and derby games. I played in all the derbies in Scotland, and I mean, they all had their own intensity at certain times, but there's nothing like a Rangers Celtic game. But you have to put that out of your head, and if you do go, I mean, I remember a New Year's Day game where Rangers, we started very well on the front foot. I hit the post after a couple of minutes, and we were dominating the game, and we ended up getting beat 2-1. But again, you can have all the possession in the world, but you have to make it count. You have to get that one, and if you do go 1-0 up, it does give you an advantage. The other team has to come out and try to get back into the game because everybody's baying for blood and they want you to go hell for leather. But again, you've got to treat it like any other game and play the way that you were set out to play. There will be tactics involved with both sets of managers, but I've got a feeling that Monday's game will be probably hopefully one of the most exciting games that we've seen in an Old Firm fixture for a while, because Rangers need to get the 3 points to stay in contention to try and pull them back. It's interesting the manager who's 9 points ahead doesn't think it really matters that much. I think if you're in that position, then you could slip up and you're still 6 points ahead.
Yeah.
I think both of them seem to be wanting to go for it, which should make a very good spectacle for everybody in the New Year's Day fixture.
Yeah. Is it win or bust for Rangers?
Yeah, again, you can never say that until it's all over, but I think it's if they don't win, if it's a draw, then again you could do the permutations that they could still be in there. If they lose, I would say very hard to come back for that. 12 points of a difference, I don't really see it.
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, I think looking forward to the game, I think for me it's whoever turns up on the day, whoever gets a wee bit of luck, and we both know that counts for a lot, because as Shaun quite rightly points out, you could be dominating the game for 20 minutes and a goalkeeper, like, you go back to God rest him, Andy Gorham, who kept Tommy Burns' team out. I mean, some of the saves he pulled off were phenomenal, and then Rangers might pop up the other end and pop one in for their first shot. So that's what that game is all about. It's a wee bit of luck, wee bit of good fortune. Again, talking about people who are nervous, I used to always look at the referee. It's a major part of the game to make sure he doesn't get affected by the crowd, because again, massive pressure on referees. They're scrutinised even more so now than they used to be. So again, he's a very important cog in the game as well. So he keeps to keep calm and make sure he's making the right decisions. And they've now got VAR and all the backup they need. So again, I'm quite sure there'll be if they're both going at it, there'll be a lot of contentious decisions made, and VAR will probably come into play. But again, something I'm really looking forward to see.
Yeah, well, fans, listen, you know yourself, Roughie and I laugh at it when you speak to Rangers and Celtic fans about, they always kind of look ahead and go, well, if we win that game and then we win this, they'll lose that, we'll win that, and the whole thing can suddenly turn on its head. 12 points would be massive, 9 points of a cushion going into it. I'm sure it's calmed Ange's outlook on it. He could come away from there from a draw and think, okay, damage limitation, but I don't get that sense from Celtic going into this one. How do you see it?
No, it's interesting. I think when you're in it, or I don't think that the actual points permutation, particularly as a manager or a head coach, I don't think you can really think about it. You have to think about the performance, and then, I think you know what the connotations with the points, but you can't really focus on it. I think what's a little bit, when you speak about the Hearns Hagler and they go toe to toe, I think it's a little bit unfair on Michael to think, like, Ange's 18 months in. Yeah. So Ange now, when you speak about Celtic being relentless, if Celtic go one down, I think he's now created a culture which takes time, and the environment and the mentality that if they go one down, if they go two down, it doesn't matter. Like, if they go one up, they go for the second, they go for the third, they go for the fourth, like we saw in the game at Celtic Park. So I think they'll go hell for leather. I think Michael, when you listen to him, he's not happy with a lot about his team at the moment, and he's only had 4 games.
Yeah.
So I don't see them as being. I'm so interested to see if they go one down, if they go one up. I still think they're only 4 games into a new manager. They are 9 points behind, so there is issues within the team. When Ange is completely the opposite, he's had them for 18 months. So I think, even if Michael loses this and it goes to 12 points, I agree it's really difficult then. I think it's still just so early from Michael that he's seen this as like, well, almost he's going to fight to the death to the end, but his thing has to be he's going to build them for next season, really.
Yeah.
But you can't talk about that the day before an Old Firm or 2 days before an Old Firm, that what it looks like in 6 months. But I think it does. I do see that when I listen to Michael. He's not happy with where his team's at.
Yeah, well, it's funny you saying that. I mean, this has no bearing, Roughie, as I show you these previous meetings. There is no bearing on this game. But there are moments where you see in the previous meetings where Celtic are dominant, and then, as we're well aware, Rangers have suddenly got the making of them and understanding how to beat them. If you have a look at the previous games that they've met against each other, you've got this one, the emphatic one that Shaun's talking about at home, with Giovanni Van Bronckhorst. I mean, Rangers at that point were dismantled by Celtic. Then you've got the 1-1 from last season. There's other matches from last season, if we have a look at them, that Rangers come out on top in the Scottish Cup semi-final, which was a great game to watch as well. Back to the Premier League, where Celtic were able to come back, because Ramsey scored early in that match. As Shaun mentioned, Celtic under Ange Postecoglou again were able to just steady the ship and come back. And then, of course, you go further back there, and again it's tit for tat on this. Celtic with a good win at home, Rangers with that Helander winner back at the start of the season 2021. Shaun,
The August one, that was Gerrard, huh?
yes,
Yeah, so I think that was I remember watching that game preparing for Celtic Hibs, and I remember watching that game and how Gerrard set up, and I think it'll be very similar to what we'll see in the next couple of days. The only thing at that point, you already kind of sense that something wasn't quite, maybe Rangers weren't quite what they were the year before.
Yeah.
They were just amazing, like relentless for that year. I think that game's really relevant, the August one, because actually, I know the Celtic teams changed, like Christie played, I think Edouard played, Welsh played, so the teams have changed. But actually I think that's a really relevant game to look at.
Before we get to the possible lineups and then your predictions, guys, not too far away, just on that point, there is a tipping point in it when managers know. You look back at the League Cup, where Rangers absolutely battered Celtic, and then Christopher Julian popped up with the winner. But for me, that was a line in the sand where Gerrard was getting closer and closer, and he was trying to work them out. And then eventually, with of course Gary McAllister and Michael Beale, they eventually come up with the tactic. Here's how to beat Celtic. And I think, as Shaun mentioned there, you're going back to that 1-0 win, Gerrard's still there. Do you see him now going back to that similar game plan again and going to what he knows will work eventually?
I don't think there's any doubt in that, because Michael was heavily involved in working out how to tactically get the better of Celtic. So I think he was a major factor in that when Steven Gerrard was the manager. So you can now come back in and try and implement his own ideas and take it forward as not only the coach and having the tactical awareness. He's got plenty of experience on the bench with him. He's brought in some really good coaches, and I think it'll take time for him to get happy with his team, get happy with how he wants to set them up and how he wants them to play. You can hear the frustration in his voice when he's got 12 points out of 12, but he's still, I agree with Shaun, this is a building game. He's looking at all the players who are on the staff, players who are coming back from injury, trying to probably impress him. Boys who were maybe out the picture, Kamara wasn't really playing, he's come back into the fold, back into the midfield. Scotty Arfield's joined in and scored a few important goals over the last few weeks. I think they're all out to try and impress the manager to try and be part of the bigger picture. There will be probably a good turnover of staff in the summer. I think a lot of boys are out of contract, so that's when you'll probably see the influx of players coming in, and then Michael Beale will be able to put his own personal stamp on how his Rangers are going to play.
Yeah, tactically, Roughie, this game, the first thing about it, and even these guys and everybody who's the pundits will be watching it, the television, the audience that will be tuning in, tactically, they'll be analysing every aspect of someone who tries to push, can Tavernier get forward, can he get the crosses in, will, suddenly a Greg Taylor or a Jota or possibly an Abada, push Tavernier back one way, and then you're looking in the middle and saying, who's going to stop McGregor, or will will there be someone in the middle of the park for Rangers who suddenly dominates? I mean, there are so many different permutations.
That just goes right out the window.
Well, how important is a crunching tackle, Roughie?
I mean, Shaun's been the manager at a very, very high level. He's the one that has to analyse, you know, what players are going to hurt me more than the others. You know, and unfortunately for unfortunately for Rangers, the Celtic team, they're everywhere. From midfield to up front, you know, stop the midfield playing at the pace they do, stop the balls getting wide. We know Celtic's strength, stop the balls coming into the box. Celtic stats in all these games that they've played, they've had 32 shots on at goal, maybe only 8 or 9 on target, and that's what you've got to stop. You've got to stop the ball coming in the ball. You've got to stop them having attempts at goal, you know, and identify the players that are causing you the most problem, and hopefully on the day you can nullify them whether they have an off game.
Yeah, tactically for you, where is it going to be won and lost?
I think it's Roughie said stopping it getting in your box. I think for me it's how you stop Celtic progressing from their half. You see how they get from their own half into your half as quickly as they can. If Rangers can do that, then they'll cause them problems, because Celtic are so aggressive. The fullbacks come in. If you can win the ball, now I find that even with my Hibs team, when you can win the ball in that area and you
high up the park,
then you can cause some problems. And I think that's where we discussed the team before we even came on. This is where I think the really big part will be with Rangers and how they definitely stop McGregor. The biggest thing for Celtic is if you stop McGregor, I think you stop the majority of them progressing into that final third. So it's everywhere really, and that's just Celtic in possession, how Rangers want to play when they get the ball. Set plays, I think Rangers, even in the game with 4-0, they had a big set play header missed. Is it Kovac? He missed a big header at set play. These are going to be vital. But that's the best part. You're trying to figure out how to beat the opposition and figure out, you're right, who their best players are, how can you stop them, and then how you hurt them. Yeah. That's the best part, I think, as being a head coach.
I've come up with 2 possible starting 11s. I mean, there'll be a tweak every now and then, because as ever with managers, there are so many different permutations, so many things that can cloud, the ideal 11, Iain. Picking Michael Beale's side, I've put 11 together for Rangers on the basis that there could be the odd tweak here and there. McGregor in goal, who's always a potential match saver. Tavernier, Golson, Davis and Barisic. I've put Kamara alongside Lundstrom with Tillman, Arfield, Kent and then Morelos up front. I've got one there that's a doubt. Maybe Kamara, and we've talked about it, Jack. Anything else, or are you looking at that and thinking maybe 99% right?
Well, I certainly it's certainly an option that I wouldn't disagree with. Certainly, Al McGregor will play. The back 4, I think, picks itself if they are all fit.
Yep.
John Lundstrom is a shoe in as well. Ryan Kent, Morelos would be shoe ins for me. Tillman, I would play Tillman. Again, I would probably sacrifice Scotty Arfield for Ryan Jack.
Yep.
Tighten up the midfield, make sure that they're defensively sound, because we they're going to be up against Celtic. Will be trying to attack as much as they can. I think given that extra dimension in midfield to try and possibly get on top of Callum McGregor, which is he's a massive player for Celtic as well.
Is that a Ryan Jack job or is that a Lundstrom job?
I think they would mix and match that one. I think possibly Ryan Jack. John Lundstrom seems to be comfortable going into the back 4, taking the ball and trying to build the play up.
Is Arfield an option from the bench, because he has scored in games
and
against Celtic?
Scott, I don't know what age Scott is now. He's getting into his early 30s or whatever. He's still a real goal threat. When you look at the Aberdeen game, I think he came off the bench, scored 2 goals. So again, when you've got players like that, we spoke about how important the benches are now. I mean, Rangers and Celtic having the financial, obviously, advantage over teams. They have a really strong bench to go to. If Scotty Arfield's on the bench and you can call upon him to come on and change the game or pop up with a goal if it's maybe eeksy peeksy and you get a Celtic on the attack and Scott can follow up and pop up with a winning goal, he's more than capable of doing that. Maybe wrong. I mean, it depends how Michael Beale's looking at it and how he wants to approach. Are you going to try and get the ball and dominate possession, which is very difficult to do with Celtic? But again, both teams having that same attitude, keep a hold of the ball, make sure when you do get it, you keep it and you get into good areas and you get it away as far away from your own goals as possible, trying to stop Celtic creating chances and putting balls into the box, and they pile in to try and get on the end of it. Again, defensively, Rangers are looking a lot more sound to me now, with the back four taking its shape and normality, and John Lundstrom going back in there. Glenn Kamara's come back in. I think he needed game time against Ross County, and I think he was on the bench last night just to save his legs. I think he'll be an important player as well. Ryan Jack, we all know what he does. He's defensively very sound, and he'll give you that dimension in there as well. So make it hard to beat, and you've got a goal threat up front with Alfredo coming back scoring last night. Could have had another couple. Tillman, I think, he's one of those players that on his day could be a match winner.
Yeah.
Again, scored last night again, and he's contributed to assisting a lot of goals over the last few weeks. Just the occasion at times, I don't know, I know he played at Parkhead that possibly bypassed him, which it happens. A lot of boys make their first Old Firm game away from home, and the game just goes before you know what's happened.
Yeah. Is there a match winner in that Rangers side, Roughie? If there's fear, if there's somebody who's got the talent to do it, what do you make of that 11?
I think Ryan Jack, on his day, I think he's got a fantastic ability. He has to believe this is the kind of game he showcases in, and if he does, it's a problem for Celtic. Tillman, he looks as if he's got a wee bit in him, but as Iain touched there, it's not consistent. But again, if he turns up on the day, these are the two guys, I think. The Arfield one, Jack, it depends, I think, how much Rangers are on the front foot. You want Arfield getting in that box. You want runners for midfield getting in and causing Celtic defence problems. So I'd probably go with him at the start.
Yeah. You wouldn't go with Tillman?
No, I don't. No, I see it slightly. I think Ryan Jack will go in between Kamara and Lundstrom. That's only if they press the way that I think they will.
Yeah.
Which is how Gerrard and Beale's team did it in the August game. And Tillman, for me, it depends how Michael Beale sees it, because Tillman's obviously really good technically. Arfield, he's so aggressive, so like he could play. But then if you think you're going to be a big counter-attack threat, you've got Scott Wright, Matondo, who is electric speed-wise, obviously that final bit yet he hasn't quite got for Rangers. He was good at Cercle Bruges last year. I think that would be the only position, that sort of where Tillman is in the team that you had, is either Tillman, Arfield, and if he wants a big counter-attack threat, you go Matondo or Scott Wright.
But the key to winning for you is Rangers must try and get that ball higher up the field, and of course, priority, would you be saying, if you're Michael Beale, do you think he's saying, listen, you must stop the ball at source, we can't afford these crosses coming in?
Yeah, you're going to have to, look, I think, even in the game at Celtic Park, that Celtic won 4-0, Rangers had more possession, but it was mainly due to the second half, but they have to go for them, and there's you have to stop Celtic as high up as you can. I think the way that he will press, and this is where it might be an issue, is Morelos might be the one that has to actually stop McGregor, because if you look at them, even from, he must have took big things from Klopp and Liverpool. It was always Firmino dropping, and they had the two wingers that would press really high. That's kind of what Gerrard did over the 3 years. If they go back to that, then it's Morelos that has to stop McGregor, and can he do that for... Look, Celtic blow you away. That's the stats that they have. They go for you early. They're not amazing in the last 30 minutes. So it's whether or not you can really stop Callum early doors. And if you can, it gives Rangers a chance. Because once you get in the final third, some of the play that Celtic have is just exceptional to watch.
And with that in mind, I've given the possible Rangers 11. Here's the possible Celtic, Shaun. And I think it more or less picks itself from time to time. Hart in goal. Ralston, if he can shake off the back injury. Starfelt, Carter, Vickers, Taylor. McGregor, O'Reilly, Hatate. Forrest, Kyogo, Jota. I mean, I have a couple of issues there, and Kyogo up front. The reason why I have the issues is I actually think maybe Forrest will not start, because maybe Maeda is just the guy perfect for this game, because he would run and chase an empty bag on a windy day.
Yeah, he was amazing against Hibs. He's brilliant out of possession. His goal was brilliant. He missed two big chances. I see two changes. I think Juranovic has to play.
Yeah,
he has to. He was amazing in the World Cup. He's been one of the best players in the league. I know there's transfer talk.
Yeah, and when the chief executive says, "Look, this is a £25 million deal here,"
It's like you play your best team. Like,
Yeah.
and he is by far the best right back they have. He's by the looks of it, if he does go, he's going to go a really big club, and he is that good. Even in the Champions League games they've lost, he's been that good. So I think as a manager, you have to play him.
Yeah,
And I think Abada will play.
yeah,
Because I think Barisic really struggles with Abada's movement in the box. He got caught in Celtic Park. Abada had another chance. I think Abada plays.
So Forrest and Jota out, Abada, Maeda.
No, I think Jota. I think Jota Maeda. Jota's just exceptional 1v1. I think if he's fit and he's over that slight illness or whatever, then I think Jota and Abada for me. But the brilliant thing is that Maeda can come in and the level doesn't drop. He just has a different attribute that he's good at. And I think that what we speak about the subs coming on, I do think that is an advantage that Celtic have in this game. But I think you have to play Juranovic. You have to.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I mean, I think Maeda is a stonewall certainty. The permutations are wonderful to look at it, Roughie, but Maeda is what you call the perfect... I mean, I think I don't want to... He's like a Rottweiler. He just basically chases and chases and chases. I'd hate to actually try and copy his Fitbit stats because he's a nightmare.
Yeah, and that's what you're getting, you know, and we saw it in the World Cup as well. He gets 60 minutes and he gives you 60 minutes, his best 60 minutes. You know he's going to give you his best 60 minutes and then you take him off. And I think he knows that mentally that's what's going to happen. So he puts in that shift that you get, and it's in this kind of game, you know, I think you need somebody like that. But it does give you a problem in the wide areas, which are the two you leave out.
Yeah, Iain, on that point, you've watched Rangers and you've watched 1,000,001 games against Celtic. You know this Celtic side. Who puts the fear of God into you? You think Michael Beale will be saying, "Stop him, we've got a chance of winning"?
I think you've got a number of players that you'd have to stop, really. I think it's the way Celtic play and it's the way they go. It's quickly, the transition from back to front is so quick. I mean, Jota on one side, I do agree. I mean, obviously from a Rangers point of view, I hope you're wrong. Abada did cause a lot of trouble. He got a goal at the back post from dropping off Barisic as well, and he caused a lot of problems. So I would think he possibly would start on that right hand side. Take James Forrest out and probably swap him over. Apart from that, again, I think they've got goals everywhere. They've got strength. They've got energy. That's the way they play. So I mean, there's loads of different permutations. We could sit here and probably throw 3 or 4 different ones in for both teams, really.
Yeah.
I mean, Young Fashion Junior for Rangers as well scored a couple of goals, a couple of games. Played up front in Ross County. He could go into a wide area and cause the problems that maybe if Tillman didn't play as well. So again, there's permutations within both squads. I think that the only 2 people that's going to know that would be the coaching staff of each club, who's going to be playing, what their tactics are going to be. But again, it's an Old Firm derby. Tactics are great on the board. Shaun will know this much better than me. The best game plan can go straight out the window. You quite rightly say the team who's not supposed to win score a goal in the first couple of minutes. You go, wow, what happened there?
Yeah.
That's what this fixture's all about. Can't wait.
Yeah, neither can I. It's going to be a fantastic game. You can give us your thoughts on it in the feed below, and of course over and above that, if you hit the subscribe button, you can join the football family. It is of course uncensored, unbiased, unmatched. We'll give you an opinion, some you like, some you don't. Hit the subscribe button, and of course if you download the app, you can watch all our unique video content, one-to-ones, dream teams, lots of other programming, as well as the football show, which is on 5 days a week. Give us your prediction. And the great thing about the game, Rangers against Celtic, is after the game's finished, you can then send us another message saying, "I told you so." and then I'll get text saying, "I told you Juranovic was going to play." Because at the end of the day, the managers are going to catch us by surprise. There might be somebody who's picked up an injury. But when the 2 teams take to the field, it's all about who can handle that bottle on the day. So, Roughie, the waiting is over. There's no point in, as my former colleague at Radio Clyde said, shilly-shallying about it. What's your prediction and why?
Well, obviously what we've been talking about, I think the possession that Celtic have in most of the games, the chances that they have, they create. I think they will create, maybe not as many as what they have been, but I think they'll create enough and shots on target to win 2-1.
Iain Ferguson.
Again, from an honest perspective, I do think both teams are getting in reasonably good form. I think Rangers have picked up over the last few weeks, and again, home advantage for me is going to count. Whoever turns up on the day, you have to have someone who can stand up and be counted on the day. I'm obviously going to go for Rangers to win 2-1.
Yeah. Shaun?
Similar to Roughie, I think both teams, I can see Rangers scoring. There's not many teams that cause Celtic as much problems in terms of set plays. I think Celtic will win by the odd goal. I think whether it's 2-1 or 3-2, I think there will be goals in this game.
And before we finish, the last point that I want to get all your thoughts on, because you've given us your prediction, you've been fairly upfront on how you've managed to get to that point, is how is this game, the first game ever, going to be affected in the league domestically by VAR? Because we've been bleating on about referees, your John Beatons, your Willie Collum as the VAR assistant.
You say that as though it's a negative
well,
thing.
no, I'm giving you who the hell would want to be doing VAR for Rangers against Celtic, but how much of an advantage is it now that we've got a situation where both teams will be able to look and say, listen, if it's an offside, there's no point in going back to the pub, it's an offside. If there's something that we can look at and advise the referee on, then we're going to percentage-wise get to the majority of decisions right.
Yeah, I like it. I think it will take away all that. I think it will take away the moments where we have these big debates and people get them wrong. I think what we'd all ideally like is that it's quicker, but also look, it's the first few months for us in Scotland to have it. But yeah, I'm glad I'm not the one in the VR room, that's for sure. But I think it will help. It will just both teams try and play a certain high line. Celtic's ridiculously high line. It will help them.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's just part of the game now, isn't it?
The one thing I would say, and I've spoken to people down south about this, Shaun, is the way we are using VAR, especially when you look at the speed of the World Cup and where decisions were made. And the one thing that a lot of people down south have been telling me is the referee still should be making that last call quicker, but with the advice. And the VAR people are there to say, look, have a look at it, but make it your call. And I think that's what we need. We need them to say, it's not a matter of fact, you're the ref, here's what we think, you analyse it and make that decision quickly.
Yeah, that's why he's the ref. It's yeah, that might take a little bit longer so that they have to go to the monitor maybe more often, but I don't mind that. That's what the referees are there for, that's what they're trained for. Give me your perception, give me your view, and then make it. Sometimes I think it is hard for them. The amount of handballs now that we get, these rules are there. I don't agree with the rules, but the rules are there, so they have to give it. Hopefully that changes in time. But you're right, I hope the more the referee actually has his opinion listened to, and it's not just a VAR room that makes the call, but that's what he's paid for, that's what he's trained for. Go and make your opinions.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that handball, because I can see that coming like a freight train, Iain, in this game. That handball is the one element which I think will blow this game up.
Well, again, I totally agree with Shaun. I think it's a massive opportunity to use modern technology to take away all these was it not, is the referee biased towards a certain team, especially in the Glasgow derby. Again, doing the decisions, making them quicker, I think is imperative. I think they have to do it concise and try and get to the decision quicker, because an Old Firm derby, you don't want to have a 2 or 3 minute delay in the things, you don't know what's happening, if there's a goal, offside. Handball used to be handball, now I just have to wait and see what the decision is, because it bamboozles me at times. Some are given and then you see something completely the same a couple of weeks later and they don't get it. So they have to be a wee bit more consistent. Hopefully VAR is here to stay. I think it does take away a lot of the decisions that referees and possibly linesmen can get wrong. It's there to be used and there to be used for the good of the game. So hopefully they get using it a wee bit quicker, but we don't need it too much in Monday, because it's going to be spoken about continuously afterwards if there's a contentious decision being made. But again, can only be a good thing in the long term.
Yeah, absolutely, Roughie. That was two very two very informed opinions, Roughie. But you don't share that because you know the handball is your bugbear.
Yeah, the handball one is there's no consistency whatsoever. I wouldn't like to be a defender getting out to shut somebody down, and they're deciding whether your hands are in an unnatural position. It's just crazy. I do like the VAR as long as they get it right. But please, if there's a VAR in the last minute of the game and you get it wrong, oh my God! In this game,
I was going to say to you, Shaun, it doesn't matter that it's VAR because, as you know, every call will still be contested because that's the nature of it.
Yeah, it's the same in other countries as well. When there's big rivalries, it's every team will think that the guy in the VAR room's against you. So look, you know there's going to be moments. There's offside. Hopefully not penalties or handballs, but it wouldn't surprise you. I think with the amount that we saw at the World Cup, it wouldn't surprise you if that's part of the game. But do you know what? How you block a shot now? You're now coached and trained. It has to be, because the amount of penalties that are now given.
It's the one element we don't want, though. We don't want the game to be shrouded in the controversy of VAR.
No, ideally not. But if it is, we'll be speaking about it again the next day.
The VAR office should be in another country.
Yeah, neutral, Switzerland.
What happened there?
Brilliant, well chosen. Yeah, absolutely. Let's hope it's not something we're talking about. The referee's not the man in the middle who's really had the final say on the outcome of the game. Let's hope we're talking about great goals, excitement, not too much controversy. I hope there's not red cards or anything like that, Roughie, that just kind of sways the balance of it. I want to see a game with goals and excitement because, after all, to finish it, it's the showpiece.
It is, and I think we all enjoy it. We all enjoy the 90 minutes, watching it, not playing it, as far as I'm concerned. But you want to be entertained, and I think both sets of players would want to go out and entertain. And let's hope, as you say, at the end of the 90 minutes, we're talking about what happened on the park and nothing else.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect way to finish. Nobody fighting. Vodka all finished. What more can you ask for? Listen, thoroughly enjoyed that chat. Hopefully you have as well. There's lots more exciting things happening in the new year on PLZ Soccer, lots more programming that I think you're going to enjoy. We'll keep you up to date with that, but if you want to stay up to date with all the latest news from all the games, reporters at all the grounds, download the PLZ Soccer app. You can get on the website, and of course the best way to get the immediate opinion is join us on the football show. It's 4 till 5, 5 days a week, and there's a 6th programme on the way as well. We'll tell you about that in the new year. But great to chat to Shaun Maloney and Iain Ferguson. And from my old mucker Roughie, it's hard to believe it. 10 years, they said it wouldn't last, but it has. We'll be covering more Old Firm games for you in the new year, and we start back on January the 3rd. What a perfect time to start back to analyse Rangers against Celtic, and let's not forget a small matter of an Edinburgh derby, which I'm going to enjoy, and so many other games across the Scottish Premiership and the lower leagues. We'll be covering it all on PLZ Soccer, on the website, the app and the YouTube channel. From Shaun, Iain, Roughie and myself, Peter Martin, thanks for watching.